Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Hello to you online. We're going to be recording this, but don't worry, you won't be on camera. And I should say to the people who are watching online, in the description, there should be links to the presentations that we're going to be seeing today. There's a bit of glare on the recording, so you may not be able to see them, but hopefully you can link to those online. So thanks for coming. The event tonight was organized by Color Irondequoit Green in collaboration with Citizens Climate Lobby of Rochester and the Climate Solutions Accelerator of the Genesee Finger Lakes region. Tonight's event is co-sponsored by the Irondequoit Public Library, the town of Irondequoit, and the office of New York State Assembly member Sarah Clark. We thank them for their support. Color Irondequoit Green, or CIG for short, is a volunteer organization of residents of Irondequoit working together towards a more sustainable future. CIG hopes to help advance climate solutions at the individual, family, neighborhood, municipal, state, and federal level. The group strives to be respectful, inclusive, nonpartisan, solutions-focused, transparent, collaborative, scientifically informed, and committed to social, racial, environmental, and intergenerational justice. Tonight's workshop will feature 2 presentations, which will each run approximately 25 minutes long, give or take. After each presentation, there will be about 10 minutes set aside for questions related to that presentation. So please try to keep your questions brief, and be aware that if you need to follow up about anything, you can always reach out to CCL or CSA or CIG as well. After the conclusion of both presentations, there will be some additional time for questions, and Assemblymember Clark will be here herself and might say a few words, and you'll be able to ask her questions as well if you'd like. So I think the first presentation is going to be by Robert Cook of Citizens Climate Lobby of Rochester. Second will be by Lee Klein of the Climate Solutions Accelerator. And with that, I think we can begin.
All right, cool. All right, hello everybody. Thanks for coming out here this evening. I'm glad you all could make it. So tonight we're gonna start by talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, or the IRA. So for those who don't know, this was a law that was passed by Congress last year in an attempt to address some of the crazy inflation we were all seeing. But it also included a whole lot of incentives for people to upgrade their homes and sort of move away from fossil fuels and shift America to domestically produced clean green energy, right? So we're going to take a look at some of the benefits of that. Now, there were 6 main categories that the IRA addressed in terms of climate provisions, and we're going to focus on 3 today. So we're going to talk about deploying clean energy. So this is going to include things like solar panels for your home. We're going to talk about some of the incentives for electric vehicles, and we'll also address building electrification and efficiency. And by building here, we mean your home, right? Electrifying and increasing the efficiency of your home. And we're going to talk about these because these categories together contribute to about 50% of America's greenhouse gas emissions. So if we can address these 3 topics, we will be able to really reduce our emissions and make a lot of progress towards some of our climate goals. Oh no, what did I press? Why'd it go dark? Okay, we're back. So I just want to start by also mentioning that even if climate change or environmental concerns aren't like your #1 priority, there is a lot going on in the world and not everyone can be focused on everything. There are still some great reasons to care about the incentives in the Inflation Reduction Act. So the first one is obviously going to be the financial incentives, right? So there's a lot of rebates and tax credits, and we'll get into all the details as we go on. But these can really help you, help your wallet, help your financial situation. A lot of the clean technologies are way more efficient than their fossil fuel counterparts. And so by upgrading, you have the rebates to help you upgrade, so it doesn't cost you too much. And once you have it, it's a lot more efficient to run and can help lower your energy bills. There's also some health benefits to a lot of the incentives and appliances that we'll be discussing. So you may have heard it became a big political topic for some reason sometime, I want to say last year. There was a study that came out that linked gas stoves to certain respiratory issues. And it just showed, if you have a gas stove, you're not going to develop asthma. But it did show that sort of at large, people who have gas stoves are more likely to develop respiratory issues, and this is because gas stoves emit more than just the flame that you see. There's other things that come out of them like carbon monoxide. And so if you're able to switch to an electric or an induction stove instead, it can actually help your health. The same thing applies to cars, really. So same studies have come out showing that communities that live right next to like super throughways and big highways also have some respiratory health issues because of the emissions from cars. And electric cars are a good way to get rid of emissions because they're electric, right? And then of course there's the environmental topics. All right, so last thing I want to mention before we jump into all the tax credits and rebates and all those fancy details is heat pumps. This is going to come up a lot this evening, and it's good if everyone knows what they are. So show of hands, does everyone know what a heat pump is? Does anyone? Okay, I see maybe 50% of you know what a heat pump is. For those who don't know, a heat pump is, kind of as the name implies, it pumps heat from one place to another. So a very common example of this is going to be a refrigerator. It is, I mean, it's a heat pump. It's the same exact working technology. You pump heat from inside the refrigerator to the outside, and that cools things off inside the fridge, keeps your food nice and fresh. But you can scale this up to the size of your entire house, right? So you can get a heat pump for your home, and they come in two main types, air source heat pumps and geothermal heat pumps. And you can use them to pump heat from the outside environment into your home, or when it's hot in the summer, you can pump heat from your home to the outside environment. So they serve both as a furnace and an air conditioner, which is really nice. They're also 3 to 5 times more efficient than most current fossil fuel heating systems, including things like natural gas heating. So they can potentially help lower your energy bills. And I know only 50% of you roughly have heard of heat pumps, but they're actually growing in popularity rapidly here. So more heat pumps were sold in the US last year than gas furnace. So they're very popular, and for good reason. They're very efficient. All right, so let's get into this. The IRA has 2 main types of incentives. It has tax rebates, or rebates, I should call them, and tax credits, right? So the rebates, these are not available yet. Some of the details we're still waiting for, and that's because the Congress decided that the federal government is going to set aside some funds and distribute those to the states, and then each individual state has to decide how they want to get that money to consumers. Okay, so we're still waiting for New York to finalize some of the details there. But these are going to be mostly for low and moderate income households, and we'll see in a minute that the low and moderate income is actually fairly generous. And the way that this works is they have set aside about $9 billion and distributed that to the states, and then each individual person can take advantage of these benefits up to a total limit of $14,000 for things like upgrading their stove, getting a new dryer, insulating their house, that sort of thing. And then the tax credits, so these are mostly available for all income levels, and I say mostly because there's one that we'll talk about. And these are available now, okay? So most of these, they're gonna be retroactive back to the first of the year. So if you've already bought sometime this year, you bought something that qualifies for the tax credit, when tax season rolls around this upcoming spring, you can qualify for that tax credit. All right, so let's start by discussing the rebates. And we're going to start by talking about the High Efficiency Electric Home Rebate Act, which I'll just call the electric home rebate from here on out. Okay, so the way that this works, this is a really nice rebate. You can get up to 100% off the price of certain appliances and home upgrades if you are considered low income. Now, low income means that you make less than 80% of your area's median income. And if you're moderate income, you can get 50% upfront rebate, which means moderate income means that you make less than 150% of your area's median income. Okay. Now, we have a little table here that can give you a rough idea of if you're going to be considered low or moderate income. These numbers are from last year, and these rebates aren't expected till next year, so they're not exact. Don't quote me on these numbers. Probably going to change a little bit, but this can kind of give you a ballpark of an idea, right? So let's say you're a household of 3 and you make less than $65K per year, roughly. In that case, you would qualify as low income and you could get up to 100% rebate on certain appliances up to a limit that depends on each appliance. Okay. Now, what are those limits? Well, if you want to install a heat pump, air conditioner, heater system for your home, you can get a rebate for that up to 100%, up to the limit of $8,000. And again, if you're moderate income, then it's still up to the limit of $8,000, but you're expected to pay 50% of the cost of that. You can get an electric or induction stove for your home for up to $840. So if your stove's about to give out, maybe your gas stove is getting old and you're thinking about getting a new one, you can get an electric or induction stove. There's a great rebate for that. And just as an aside, I want to mention, because I have an induction stove, I love it, okay? Electric stoves, they get a bad rap, right? Because a lot of people, they think of electric stoves, they think of those old coils that take forever to heat up. They're really slow, it's hard to cook things and get precise temperature control. Induction stoves, you don't have any of those issues. So induction works by, it's just electromagnetism, and it heats up your pots and pans, but it doesn't actually heat up the surface of your cooktop, which means when you take off your pot or pan, it stays, it's warm because there was just a hot pot on it, but it's just warm. It's not going to burn you. If you have a kid run up and put their hand on it, they're not going to have a burn, right? They're also really nice because they're flat. It's very easy to clean. You can boil water in about 2 minutes. I am a big fan. All right, carrying on. You can also get a heat pump clothes dryer or a heat pump water heater. There's rebates for that. So we talked about heat pumps. They just move heat from one place to another. So you can use that instead of a natural gas hookup for your clothes dryer or for your water heater. It's $840 for the clothes dryer, up to $1,750 for the water heater. And the HEFRA, what did I say I was calling it? The electric home rebate, it does not just cover green appliances. It also covers efficiency upgrades to your home. So if you get an energy audit, let's say, and you find out that your home is radiating heat like the sun, right? You might want to insulate that before you start doing all these upgrades so that you get the full benefits of the increased efficiency of some of these appliances. Well, guess what? There's a rebate for that. You can get up to $1,600 for weatherizing your home. If you have an older electrical panel, and this is common in a lot of older houses, and you're worried about, well, I want to electrify my home, but can my electrical panel handle it? You can get a rebate to upgrade that up to $4,000. And if your wiring is really old, you can also get a rebate for that up to $2,500. There also is this at the bottom, there's a rebate for efficiency upgrades. That is a separate rebate. We'll talk about that in just a moment. All right. So just to run through a quick example of how this all works, let's say that you are a family of 4 and you make less than around $72,000 annually. Right? In that situation, you would be considered low income, and you would qualify for the 100% rebate up to those limits for certain appliances. So let's say you decide you want to electrify your home, and you want to start by weatherizing your home. So this is going to be things like insulating, getting better windows that keep the heat in. You can get a rebate for that up to $1,600. So if you can weatherize your home for $1,600 or less, it's going to be completely free for you. Okay. And then let's say you want to upgrade your wiring in your house. Also a rebate for that up to $2,500. Now in the first year, you spend around $4,000. Okay. The next year comes around, you go, all right, my home is weatherized, I have new wiring in here, let's get a heat pump. So you get a heat pump, and you get a rebate for that of 100% the price up to $8,000. So if you can find a heat pump for $8,000 or less, it's free for you. And then let's say unexpectedly your water heater gives out, dang, you gotta get a new one. Oh, wait a minute, if you get a heat pump water heater, you can get a rebate for that up to $1,750, so you do that. So now in the second year, you spend around $10,000. In the first year, you spent around $4,000. And now in total, you've spent $14,000, or I should say you got a rebate of $14,000, and that is the cap. So each appliance has its own cap, and you can mix and match them, whatever suits your needs, up to an absolute limit of $14,000. Now, of course, not everyone is a family of 4 making less than $72,000. So if you want to find out exactly what rebates and tax credits you're going to personally qualify for, there's this group called Rewiring America, and they put together this calculator. You can go to rewiringamerica.org/app/IRA-calculator. And if you grab one of the handouts over there, I think this is printed on that, You go in there, you give them info like your zip code, your income, your filing status, that sort of thing, and they will tell you what you qualify for. Okay. And we can actually, I can just show you the calculator briefly. I think we have enough time. So this is the calculator on the website. So if you want to fill this out, let's see, I am a renter personally. I have a household income of around 55K, 14614. This is a weird laptop. 607. They don't need my email. Calculate. Let's see. So you would get a few more options if you are a homeowner. I personally rent, but I still have a lot of credits available for me. $5,000 in tax credits. Estimated energy savings around $1,200 or $1,100 per year. Look at that. That's pretty cool. So you can go and do that yourself at your own leisure if you would like. And the last rebate that I want to talk about, this is the one that I said was a separate rebate I'd come back to. This is the homes rebate. So there's still a lot of questions about this specific rebate. We're waiting on the IRS to finalize some of the details. But the way that this works is if you are making an upgrade to your home, let's say you're installing some sort of a heat pump or something, and you can demonstrate that installing that will reduce your energy usage by at least 20%, then you qualify for this rebate. Okay, and there's no income cap on this one. You just qualify if you're reducing your energy by that much. The more you reduce your energy, the more of a rebate you can get. You can get up to $8,000 if you're one of those considered lower moderate income that we just talked about, and up to $4,000 if you are higher income than that. Okay. So if you're higher income, maybe you don't qualify for any of the rebates that we just talked about, but this is still available for you. And again, more details are coming. It says late 2023, but come on, it's November. So probably next year, we'll know more about this. And that is the homes rebate. Oh, and I should mention, you can't use both of these rebates for the same upgrade. So if you get a heat pump, you can't use the efficient home rebate we just talked about as well as this one together, but you can use them for separate projects. So you can mix and match depending on your own needs. All right, so we're going to finish up by talking about the tax credits in the IRA, and we're going to start with the most complicated one we have. So the clean vehicle tax credit. Okay, this is probably the one I hear people talking about the most. I get the most questions about this one. The way that this works is if you are purchasing a new electric vehicle or a plug-in hybrid, so it doesn't have to be fully electric if you're not ready to make that commitment yet, you can qualify for a tax credit of up to $7,500, but there are some restrictions. So firstly, there is an income restriction. So you have to make $150,000 less if you're a single, or $300,000 or less if you're filing joint, which is fairly generous, but just bear that in mind for your own personal needs. Also, the car has to be built in North America. So this was an attempt, Congress really wanted to, there was a big push to bring manufacturing back to America, right? And so to help incentivize that, they required that any new electric vehicle you buy has to be built here in North America. And it also has to meet certain battery sourcing guidelines. And that was because there was some news articles that came out about the way that certain electric cars were sourcing some components for their batteries that was not great. And so in an attempt to address that, Congress said that if you want to qualify for this rebate, you have to meet some guidelines about how you source your batteries, all right? There also is a used electric vehicle credit available. So this one is going to be, a used vehicle is anything that's at least 2 years old, is sold at a dealer, and is 25K or less. Okay, so if it's an electric vehicle that fits that description, you qualify for this credit. This one does not have the same built in North America battery sourcing requirements as the new one does. But if you qualify for this, you can get 30% credit up to $4,000 off the price of a used electric vehicle. The income restriction for this is a little bit more stringent, so it's 75K single, 150K if you're filing joint. Now, here's where it gets a little bit messy. If your tax burden at the end of the year is less than the $7,500 tax credit, you won't get the full $7,500. You'll just get, like, let's say you owe $5,000 at the end of the year in taxes, right? And you bought a new EV. You're not going to get the full $7,500. You're going to get the $5,000, and that extra $2,500, it's not going to be available in the form of blanking on the word.
Rollover.
A rollover, thank you. It's not gonna be available in the form of a rollover. It's like you use it once and then it's done, all right? So I should also mention though, that next year sometime, this is expected to transform from a tax credit into a rebate. And once it's a rebate, then you will get the full $7,500, right? So you won't have to worry about your tax liability anymore. So if you have a car, you're thinking about upgrading to an EV, and you're able to squeeze through this winter, you might be worth the wait for that extra money if your tax liability is less than that. If your tax liability is more than that, don't worry about it. It's not going to make a difference either way. All right, and just a quick note about some of the great benefits of electric vehicles. They are more expensive upfront. Yes, there is a premium you pay for an electric vehicle, but this tax credit and future rebate can help offset a lot of that price, significant portion of it. And once you have it, they are actually cheaper in the long run to maintain and operate. And this is because of things like you don't need an oil change if there's no oil in your car, right? So you're going to save money in the long term there. Your spark plugs are never going to give out, because believe it or not, batteries don't have spark plugs. I know, crazy. Also, the operating cost of electric vehicles is cheaper because electric is far cheaper than gas, and it's not going to be subject to these crazy fluctuations in gas prices that we've been seeing lately. And also, if you want to get an EV and you install a charger in your home, you can qualify for a 30% tax credit up to $1,000 if you live in a rural or low-income area, right? So if this is going to be your main source of commuting and getting around, you're not in a city and you need your car, and you want to get a charger so you don't have to fill up at the pump, that tax credit is for you. All right, so that's about electric vehicles. And now we get to talk about heat pumps. So this is it's just called section 25C of the law. It's kind of a boring name, but this addresses heat pumps and extended credit. So the way that this works is there is no income cap on this tax credit. So any income level can qualify for this. You get a 30% tax credit up to certain limits depending on what you're installing. So if you want to get an air source heat pump for your home, and an air source heat pump, this is a heat pump, it sits outside your home, it draws in heat from the air outside and pumps it into your house. If you want to get an air source heat pump for your home, or if you need a water heater and it's a heat pump water heater, you can qualify for 30% tax credit up to $2,000 for that. And also, you can get up to $1,200 per year by mixing and matching these categories. So you can get 30% tax credit up to $1,200 for things like energy audits for your home. If you need to insulate your home, you can get tax credit for that. If you get some new Energy Star doors that are really good at insulating, keeping the heat in your home, there's a tax credit for that. Windows, guess what? Tax credit. If you get a new electrical panel and you're also installing a heat pump, there's a tax credit for that. And keep in mind, for this electrical panel, there's also the rebate that we talked about earlier. So you can get a rebate for that, you get a rebate for a heat pump, and then there's a tax credit for both of those. So that is available to you as well.
Can you use both of those at the same?
You can use the rebates and the tax credits together. Those can stack, yes. It's just the two rebates that we talked about earlier, those two can't stack. But you can do rebate and tax credit, yes. Worth noting on this one is just like with the electric vehicles, any unused tax credits, they don't carry forward year on year. So you just kind of use up to your tax liability and then you're done, right? However, this one does renew every year, so you can do $1,200 worth of efficiency upgrades here, and then the next year you can do $1,200 worth of efficiency upgrades again, and you can keep doing that year on year for the next 10 years. And 10 years because that's how long the law is in effect. All the money's already been set aside, and Congress doesn't have to reauthorize this. We have all these credits for 10 years now. All right, and then the last section of the law, this addresses things like solar panels and geothermal heat pumps. So if you decide that you want to lower your energy bill by installing a solar panel and producing your own energy at home, you can do that and get a tax credit for this. So this one's really generous. It's a 30% tax credit for all homeowners, no income caps. And there's no cap on this one. So it's just 30% off the cost of your solar panels. That includes the cost of the panels themselves, as well as any installation costs you might incur. It includes if you want to install a battery, so energy you produce during the day, you have that available later on during the night. You can get that as well, also covered. And on top of that, New York State also has a 25% credit for this up to $5,000. So suddenly, if you have like a $19,000 solar panel project, it's going to cost you less than half of that at only around $8,500, which suddenly when you start considering that, and then you think about how much that's going to lower your electric bill by because you're producing your own energy, becomes a lot more feasible for a lot more people. Also, what's really nice about this is any unused tax credits, they do carry forward for the next 10 years. So that's available for you and you can get the full tax credit there. And lastly, we have also part of this, the same part of the law, section 25B, geothermal heat pumps are available for you. It's the same deal as the solar panels. So it's going to be no income limits, 30% tax credits, includes the cost of the heat pump as well as any labor or installation costs. There's no cap on this, totally uncapped. And New York State also matches 25% up to $5,000. So suddenly, $30,000 geothermal heat pump project is only around $16,000, which makes it a lot more competitive with any other upgrades to your home. You might want to do like a furnace upgrade. And then you think about how efficient these things are, and it's probably going to end up lowering your bill and being cheaper to go the heat pump route. And just like with the solar panels, any unused credits, they carry forward for the next 10 years. And that is the sum total of the tax credits and rebates. So there's a lot of information in here, and chances are if you're here, you're probably considering at least upgrading your home in some way or another. And if you want to know who you can go to talk to about this and get some advice, there's a great organization you're about to hear from called the Climate Solutions Accelerator. They are a nonpartisan 501c3 organization, and they have a program called Heat Smart Finger Lakes.
It's called AMPed now.
Oh, it's called AMP now. You guys finally changed it. Okay. It is called AMP now, so disregard that. But they have a program called AMPed, and their goal is to help homeowners and businesses make the transition to a clean, green energy economy. So you can get in touch with them. You can scan this QR code, go to their website, which is probably different.
Yeah, it's probably old, but I have a QR code.
Don't scan this QR code. Just wait a minute.
Don't worry.
But you can talk with them, and they can get you an energy advisor who can send out like get you an energy audit, help connect you with contractors who can make these upgrades to your home, and talk to Lee about that because they're right here. All right. So that is all. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Two questions.
Yes.
Hybrids aren't involved in any of this?
Hybrids are involved, but they have to be a plug-in hybrid. So as long as you can plug it in and charge up the battery, it's covered.
Can you explain a little bit more about the induction heat on top of a stove? So it's a glass?
Yeah, so it's like,
glass
usually it's
top?
glass or ceramic. I think ceramic's probably the more common one. It's just perfectly flat, and there's these coils of wires that produce a magnetic effect. That magnetic effect, if you put your pan down, it's going to create some eddy currents in that, which is going to heat up your pan. So it's not like an electric stove where you heat the surface and then put it in contact with the surface. You're directly heating the pan.
Wow.
So your surface actually stays cooler. Yes, in the back.
Robert, can you say something about what kind of pan it has to be?
Oh, yes, I should mention. It has to be, so,
Plastic is a no-go, yeah.
yeah, it can't be a plastic. It has to be able to be magnetic. So a good way to test this, if you're buying a new pan, just bring a little magnet, see if it sticks. If it sticks, it's probably induction compatible. Or a lot of the times they'll advertise it as induction compatible. You can check that way too. So.
Those staying on it, so is there an oven with that?
You can get a whole induction stovetop and oven, yes, but personally I rent a little studio apartment, so no, I didn't have room for a whole oven. Mine is just a little cooktop. Yeah.
To go along with it, I do have the induction stove and the oven. It's like the fastest preheat oven ever. Like I had one of the small ones that would cook a meal in something. But in the stove with the induction, heated so much quicker, it was like, forget that, and we got rid of that
Yep.
piece. Yeah.
Yeah. They're really
The
great.
levels of heating on the induction stove are amazing, from low, and then there's 9 different levels of heating, instant, quick, hot water, and within a minute and a half or 2 minutes.
That's really fast.
Staying on inductions, is it more efficient for the electricity? Would it reduce your, versus a standard electric stove, would it be much less costly, I imagine?
Is induction more efficient than electric? That's a good question. I'm seeing a yes. Yes, I believe it is, yes.
Okay, thanks. Question about heat pumps?
Yes,
So they're run off of electric, correct?
yes.
Okay. So if you had solar panels on your roof, could you, and you had a battery in theory, could you run the heat pump
Yeah.
electric off of the solar? So you'd really be almost off.
You'd be off grid, yeah,
Okay, that's kind of cool,
yeah,
all right.
potentially exists.
Yeah, the battery storage, and that's the issue of the day, the battery storage.
Is there any standardization on these energy audits? I mean, like an HVAC contractor might do an energy audit. You folks mentioned an energy audit. Are they all the same, or is there some standard?
That is a good question. I imagine there's a standard.
I can take that.
Oh, yeah.
So we do actually have, the AMPed project does have vetted contractors that we like to use, that are up on the clean energy stuff, and they'll do a pretty standard audit. I think across the board, it's pretty standard, but the one thing is if you're getting a heat pump, you're gonna need what's called a blower door test. And that's like something that we like to go to our vetted contractors for.
I should mention on that topic that energy audits in New York State are free. So the state will cover you if you want an energy audit for your home.
Is there anyone local who does it?
Yeah, yes. We have, I'll cover all of them, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Any more questions, anyone?
I remember $2,000, there was something about efficient home, if you can show that you lowered your bill. You'd have to show them your electric bill then, to go down at least 20% after you install.
Yes,
windows
so-
or put in insulation.
So each state gets to determine how they want to run that.
Okay.
There's 2 pathways. You can either have a contractor come out and run like a computer simulation of your home, or you can directly measure it. And which way New York State's gonna go is still, as far as I know, it's still up in the air.
Okay, thank you.
Sheila?
You mentioned for EVs, for EV car, that you could get a credit or a rebate for the charger. You don't need to have a charger, right? You can just plug that into a.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you don't need to get the charger, but if you wanted to save yourself a trip to the charging station, I guess, you could install them.
You could charge them up in your garage with just a large plug.
Oh, with just like a standard?
Yeah,
It's
there's
not-
a standard that's 110 volt cord that your car will come with
Yeah.
if you buy it new. And then there are the 220 volt, much faster chargers, like you see it like somewhere out there.
So you don't technically need to have a charger, you can charge it up at home. with-
Technically you can, but it's gonna be slower, but yes, you can.
But much faster, obviously, if you have. a
Yes, correct. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention also New York has a rebate as well for, or is it rebate or tax credit? I think it's a tax credit. Is it rebate?
2,000?
Yeah, New York has a $2,000 rebate for buying electric vehicles that you can stack on top of the one that we talked about. So
They took that right off.
you took that away?
They took it right off when we bought the car, the state one.
Oh, they take it
Yeah.
right, oh, okay, so yeah, it's a rebate then, yeah.
So you don't have to pay interest on it?
Yes.
You're not financing it?
I didn't finance it.
Well, if you're, you don't have to finance.
They were saying like you paid its cost, so you don't finance.
Yeah, if they married a dealer directly, that must be, you buy it.
Yeah, it's, so I think it's usually works like the state will give the dealer the rebate and they'll pass it on to you. So.
What's an example of just a regular hybrid versus a plug-in hybrid?
So a regular hybrid, you can't plug in. It's gas powered and it switches to battery power when it's able to, if it's able to charge it up by itself. But a plug-in hybrid, you can just plug it directly in and charge it as an electric vehicle. I actually know a guy who has one and he comes into work, he's got, oh, go ahead.
Plug-in hybrid, it's not that one. You can only charge it like a certain amount. It's only, mine's like 35, because it's a couple years old now. I guess some of them now might get 50 on a charge. And then it automatically switches over to hybrid when you run out of that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the difference is.
Yeah.
Hybrid is just hybrid all the time.
Is it electric first as a
Yeah.
default?
Yeah.
Oh, so it runs electric.
So it's really good if you like want to commute every day, you can just run off electricity, but if you have a long
Yeah,
trip
that's great.
and you're worried about range.
I just charge it at home.
Any more questions?
And there will be additional time at the end of both presentations for more questions if you have them. But I think maybe we can move on to that.
Okay, cool. Thanks, everyone.
Don't know why that was so hard for me. Hello, everyone. My name is Lee. Oh, I'll take this off. My name is Lee Klein, and I'm here with the Climate Solutions Accelerator. So we are going to go over, there's going to be a little bit of overlap between our presentations, but I'm going to talk to you about our organization, and then I'm going to discuss energy efficiency as a concept and what that looks like for you guys in your homes. What kind of federal programs you can get to lower the cost of that. We're not going to do a lot of Inflation Reduction Act since we just did that, but it is something to keep in mind. And then how can you guys get involved? So first, the Climate Solutions Accelerator. We are a nonprofit that services the Finger Lakes region, and the goal is to promote climate solutions, sort of like with groups like yours. And also eliminate greenhouse gases. Those are our goals. It started as a grassroots organization in 2014, completely volunteer run. And then in 2017, we became an official nonprofit 501(c)(3). In 2022, so I'm here as an energy advisor, which is under what's called the Clean Energy Hub. So in 2022, NYSERDA, which is New York State's energy department thing, they designated a clean energy hub in each of the regions in New York State, and they chose organizations in each of those regions to sort of carry out that work. So the Climate Solutions Accelerator is the chosen organization for that grant, and under that grant, we provide unbiased assistance for people to electrify their homes, get better energy efficiency in their homes. We also service businesses and churches and etc. But I think you're all here for your homes, I'm imagining. And in the area, AMPT is the residential program for that. So AMPT is sort of like coordinating the local efforts for energy efficiency. And as part of the grant, we are mandated to work with 35 to 40% disadvantaged communities, which is determined by NYSERDA. And those communities have some better, not better, but have some more money toward them for this work. So I kind of went over this, but as the hub, we assist people in finding energy audits, doing weatherization on their home. We advise on heating and cooling systems. We have a list of vetted contractors in the area that we trust to do energy efficiency work with. And we also have connections with other local organizations for what we call wraparound services. So maybe the grant you get isn't quite covering the work you need to do, but we can find another grant for you in the area, or maybe you can't get a heat pump yet because your basement's flooded, and so we can find you people who are going to fix your basement up so that we can get the heat pump in, things like that. We also do presentations like this one, and we table at events to get the word out about energy efficiency and about electrification. And we can also work directly with municipalities who are looking for a more concerted effort in their communities for electrification. And just so that you can get a sort of idea of what we're working with, this is the area that our Clean Energy Hub services. So if you know anyone in these counties, send them our way. We're ready to help. So now we're going to talk a little bit about energy efficiency so that we're all working kind of with the same definition. So basically that is using less energy to perform the same tasks that we used to. So energy efficient homes are going to use less energy to run their appliances, to cool it down in the summer, to heat it up in the winter. And this is one of the most effective ways to combat climate change, because if we're using less energy, we are using fewer fossil fuels, or we need to build fewer solar panels. So we're that much closer to a carbon neutral world. There are plenty of other benefits as well. So it also improves climate resilience because there's less pressure on the grid. And like I said, obviously there's fewer emissions because we're using less energy. It can reduce your energy bills, which I'm sure everyone is excited about, and also creates new jobs. Clean energy is a sector that requires a lot of upkeep. So that's going to really boost the economy that way. And then another one is improved air quality in the home and outside. So with less pollution, there's less case, like we said, the asthma that you were talking about before is just better quality of life, fewer indoor air pollutants. So to kind of break it down, more energy efficiency, we're using less energy. That means less emissions, lower energy bills, and less load on the electric grid. Everyone wins. Huzzah. Okay. So how do we measure energy efficiency, and what sort of technologies are out there to get us there? So as we sort of alluded to before, the first step is an energy audit, because a lot of these technologies are not going to work very well if your home is leaking air or if it's a little drafty. So the very first step, once we get you in contact with a contractor, is they're going to perform an energy audit. They're going to look at your whole house. They're going to see where heat is escaping. They're going to see what your insulation looks like, how old the house is. And from there, they're going to make some recommendations on what work needs to be done to weatherize your home. And like we said, this is free to all New Yorkers. So even for market rate customers, there's just a simple form you fill out. You prove that you're under one of the companies, so like RG&E, NYSEG, or a couple of, if you're like Fairport has a weird municipality thing, but anyway, that's not important. You just have to prove that you're under one of the companies, the electric companies, and then you can get a free energy audit. Then, if you are looking to upgrade your HVAC system to electric, you would have to complete a blower door test. This one is not free unless you are under one of the low income categories. So what a blower door test measures is it measures the number of times the air in your home completely turns over. And you want that to be lower for heat pump technology. And it is now tax deductible if you're not under one of the low income programs. Okay, so you get your energy audit. Hooray, we're ready to go. Maybe you've gotten some weatherization work done. And now we can look at the potential upgrades that you can do. So we have heat pumps, air source heat pumps and geothermal heat pumps are basically electric HVAC systems. That's what we really are sort of pushing for because of all of the current rebates and benefits that you can get, and they're super energy efficient. Then heat pump water heaters it's not for your whole home, it's just to heat the water, but it's still improving energy efficiency. And then you can add EV charging, solar, rooftop, but we're going to talk mostly about the heat pumps. So we kind of discussed air source heat pumps already, but this is a funny video, so I'm going to play it anyway. So let's see if we can hear it. Oh no.
Sorry about this. That's unfortunate. Sorry.
It's okay. I'll just play it on in the background. It is this lovely man is dressed as a heat pump, and he is going to DC to talk to a couple senators about what a heat pump is. It's just kind of funny. It'll be linked in the presentation, which you can can view, but it's just kind of funny because these senators are being very serious and he's like just as a heat pump. But yeah, see, you're having fun. You can't even hear it. Okay, but, oh, hello? Please. Okay, so as Rob discussed, a heat pump is an electric way to heat and cool your home. Think like a refrigerator. You touch the outside of your refrigerator, it's very hot, which means it's pulling hot air out to make the inside cool. So heat pumps do that, but in both directions for your whole home. The only case that you can't cool it is if you have radiators, but anyway. So one of the biggest misconceptions about them is that they don't work in cold climates. And if you work with fossil fuel contractors, that's what they're going to tell you. They're going to be like, don't get a heat pump. It's not going to work. That's not true. Don't listen to them. Well, they know what they're doing, but not for this. So there are now cold climate heat pumps that work up to or down to -15 degrees Fahrenheit. And I don't think it really ever gets that cold here. So they're perfectly safe and will keep you warm all winter efficiently. Don't worry about it. Some benefits are we're removing natural gas from the home, so fewer indoor air pollutants, less chance of there being some sort of explosion, carbon monoxide. They're more efficient than normal HVAC systems. So even if you still get your electricity from fossil fuels, it is still lowering emissions because it is more efficient. And your monthly energy bill is going to look around the same. It could be even better if you get the weatherization work done first, but it won't go up. And it has, depending on your home, they can put mini splits into different sections of your home, so there's more control inside the home. A geothermal heat pump is another type of heat pump where the air that they're exchanging temperature from is underground. The air underground is pretty stable year round. In this area, I believe it's around 50 degrees. So basically, you have to use even less energy to get to the temperature you want because we're already closer to the temperature we want to be, both in the winter and in the summer. So the way this works is they would come into your yard and they dig holes in your yard either vertically or horizontally for piping, which is where the heat exchange happens. And then in your basement where your normal furnace would be, that's where it'll push that nice temperature air into the rest of your home. So these are like super, super efficient. So in this case, you will see a lower number on your energy bill, but they are just a little bit more expensive to install and they take a bit longer. So this one requires a little bit more planning, but super, super efficient. You can also like bundle them with areas. So if you have a bunch of neighbors and you're like, we all want geothermal, the pipes that they dig can service multiple different buildings. So just to compare, both of them super efficient, great choices, but the air source heat pump is going to be cheaper up front and it's going to be quicker to install. So if you're maybe like, oh no, my furnace broke, probably go for air source. But if you have the money, if you have the time, geothermal and the land, geothermal is a great option. So can anyone get a heat pump? Generally, yes. The only holdups are the weatherization. So that is the first work that needs to happen, making sure your house is nice and sealed. And depending on what your delivery of heat is, it could be a little more or less involved, but that's something that a contractor would know a lot about. So not something you really have to worry about if it's something you're really, really into doing. And to get you started on getting a heat pump, you can schedule an appointment with one of the energy advisors at the hub. Then if you're not quite ready to replace your furnace, say you just got it replaced, no reason to replace it again. There are also heat pump hot water heaters, which have a break-even cost of 3 to 5 years. So it's really like if your hot water heater breaks, like this is really the way to go. The only consideration is that because it's like the opposite of a refrigerator, the outside is going to get cold. So if you have a finished basement that you hang out in often, probably not the best choice, because you don't want to have to like cool the air around it and then heat the air. Why are we doing all that? So now I'm going to discuss some of the programs that make this work cheaper. So like I said, we work mainly with NYSERDA, and they have a lot of programs to roll out this technology. And then we already heard about the Inflation Reduction Act, but that's another way to make this cheaper. So the main program that we advise about is called the Empower program. There's a low income version tier and a moderate income tier. So the low income is available for families 60% below state median income, which in Monroe County for a 2-person household is around $47,000. This gets you a $10,000 grant, so no strings attached. Here, have $10,000 for insulation, air sealing, heat pump, new lighting, and it's available for renters and homeowners. It's just the work that they can do for each place is a little different. And you can do it every 3 years. So maybe this year you just get the weatherization, you're chilling with that for a while, energy bills go down because you're losing less air, and then 3 years later you're like, I think I'm ready for, or 3 years later your furnace breaks, and it's like, all right, heat pump time. So you can keep using it. Then the moderate tier is 80% below the area median income. So for a 2-person household in Monroe County, it's 63,000-ish. And this will cover 50% of the project costs up to $5,000 as a rebate. Okay, and then there are some additional heat pump incentives for New York State. So there's the clean heat rebate, where you get $800 to $1,200 for every 10,000 BTUs. BTUs is like a measure of like heat energy. Yes, British Thermal Unit. And you get that for sort of like heat pump related technology. So air source, geothermal, or the hot water. And these are, and then there's a tax credit of $2,000, and these are available for all tiers. And then New York Comfort Homes is a program that's available for everyone, and this is the program that gets you that free energy audit. And after you get the, you can just stop at the audit. You can say, I got the audit, great, cool. I'll do some work on my house myself or something, but you can also get rebates for 3 packages of weatherization. So the first one's like $1,000 just for a couple jobs around the house, and then up to $4,000, which is like, you're really insulating the whole thing, windows done, everything. Also in the area, we have the Weatherization Assistance Program. So if any of the above programs didn't quite cover the cost, if you are eligible for Empower, you're automatically eligible for WAP, and that's rolled out by Pathstone and ABC in Rochester. The issue is they have quite a long waiting list right now. They're a bit backed up, but something else. And then HEAP also has a couple of benefits. If you're a HEAP recipient, there are some benefits to replacing your furnace if it's broken, or cleaning and tuning it. And then there's, like I said, other local organizations that have grants toward this that we can help you find. So we already went through the IRA. I will not do it again, I promise. But like we discussed, it's a 10-year program. So really the time is now. You want to get these benefits. So if you just replace something, don't go out and replace it again. But if something's getting a little old, getting a little creaky, now's the time. So how do you can't remember all this. I don't even remember all this. It's my job. No. To get started on any of this work in your home, we suggest an energy advisor call. I'm an energy advisor. Hello. So we would give you a call and we would walk you through, based on where you live, your income, etc., what programs are right for you. It's free, it's completely free, and you're not obligated to change anything in your home, though we would love it forever if you got a heat pump. And it's personalized to what you need. We can clear up any misinformation about the tech, about contractors, about the rebates, anything. We also have localized knowledge. We can recommend certain incentives, and we also are not working on commission. We do not get any benefits from doing this. So if you want to use a different contractor, please go for it. No obligations. But speaking of contractors, these are our five vetted contractors in the area that we really trust to do heat pump technology, and we really trust for weatherization. They are great. We also, as energy advisors, we're in contact with them. We know what their wait times look like. We're really working closely with them. So this is who we recommend if you're going for heat pumps. So to get started, I would say book a call with an energy advisor. You would get your audit, see what the work scope is, and go from there. And we can be as involved or uninvolved as you want. So maybe you just call once to see what's right for your home, never call us again, fine. Maybe you want us to walk you through every single application, also fine. It's all up to you. So here's a QR code that works. So you can use this QR code to get you to the AMPed website. I'm going to go back to this, but I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So here's the AMPed website. This is where it's going to bring you. You're going to fill out this form. Just give us your name. We like it if you give us your address because it lets us know what you'll be eligible for. Anything about the home. And then once you hit submit, that'll send you to a Calendly link where you can schedule an appointment with an energy advisor. There's 3 of us. I'm one, and then there's also Bree and Brett, and they're both great. And Bree and Brett have been working there for a year, and I've been working here for 2 months, so they will know a lot. I promise. So that is what I had. Any questions? Yes.
Can you get an energy audit right away, or is there a waiting list?
So most of our contractors are scheduling around 2 weeks out. Yes.
On one of your slides, under the near comfort homes, it said attic plus rim joist. What's a rim joist?
I would, do you know what? I don't know. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't actually know. But we can look it up. Or I also have my business cards over there. Yes, hello. Oh, do you know?
Yeah, we can tell you.
Oh, perfect.
Basically, right above, if you have a block foundation, which most of us has, right, it's where the wooden part of the house on top meets that block foundation, and there's a band there that often is not well insulated, and they'll come in and insulate that.
Thank you.
So it's not installing a rim joist?
No.
Insulating
It's
that
insulating.
area.
They just spray foam over it, and it hardens it and trapped air, so it just gets.
Yes.
Are the air source heat pumps technology, is it in the process of maturing? I mean, you mentioned the ones that go to -15.
Yeah, it is absolutely mature. The technology is getting better every year, and we've had heat pumps forever. So an AC unit in the window, that's a heat pump. So we're just we're improving year after year. It's very recent that the cold climate ones have come out, so there's a lot of money going into this area.
The
Yeah.
non-cold climate ones, are they applicable to Rochester, New York?
I would say no. In Rochester, you would want a cold climate heat pump, and that's what all of our contractors install.
The heat pump is constantly pulling air in from outside. So
Yes.
that ends the fresh air problem. Like, if I button up my house tightly, how am I going to get a healthy breathing house?
Right.
With the air pump, you're constantly getting fresh air, and then the
Yes.
dust air is going out.
Yes, and that's why it needs to be weatherized well, because
Sealed though.
oh yes,
It's a sealed system, but
Okay.
do that floor door test and seal up your house. It will not seal it up completely. There's still going to be air changing over, just not as much.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm new, so some of the tech is not quite in there yet.
Actually, if your house is pre-type, you can put a ventilation system in. That will bring in fresh air, convert it to warm the air, and then spread it through the house.
Okay.
That's if you're really tight. I've only seen that in one house.
Yes.
I get my electricity from that oddball Fairport Electric.
Yes.
Which is good, but do I therefore qualify or not qualify for a free energy audit?
There is another program called IEEP. I remember that. That's about all I remember. I'm very sorry, but I will check on that for you, and we can work it out. Yeah.
When they talk about replacing windows, is it always replacement or can it be restoration?
It can be restoration. So windows are actually a very low priority on the list of NYSERDA priorities. So the Comfort Homes one, they want you to, I believe, replace like 80% of your windows to get that benefit, which is just so many windows. Like, it's so expensive at that point. And the $4,000, like, what is the $4,000 doing? We're replacing all of our windows. So something that people like to do, I mean, the insulation would help weatherize the home. But if you are interested in replacing windows, something people like to do is replace like 1 or 2 a year and then claim that $600 tax credit from the IRA, because that way you're getting the high, because you can do it year after year. So that's a route that people take with windows often.
Do you know if there's grants still in around for it? I got grants to do some things in my house when I first moved in.
Oh.
I don't know. Do you know anything about that?
It still exists.
It doesn't?
But I don't know how it overlaps with this.
Yeah.
Repeat the question.
Yeah.
She was asking about grants in Irondequoit for windows specifically.
Yeah, I mean, windows, I know I got one for my furnace.
Mhm.
That was like 15 years ago, but
It's another one I will have to look into.
just wanted to put it out there.
Yes.
I have a question on the geothermal,
Mhm.
the relative cost for horizontal versus vertical.
That is a good question. Oh, my friends in the back.
Yeah, it's a lot more expensive than that.
Yeah.
It's like another $12,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can do it horizontally, that's the best we get.
We don't got a letter.
I know somebody who used to do the drilled geothermal systems, and he swore by them up and down, and now he's saying go with the cold temperature heat pumps.
The horizontal geothermal, you need a bigger property. So if you have a typical suburban lot, you're not gonna have enough room for a horizontal system. You're gonna have to do vertical if you wanna do geothermal.
Yes.
This is all for residential, right?
Yes.
There's no commercial here, like,
So there is a commercial program in AMPT. You can actually, let's go back to the AMPT website.
I was wondering if there's a program to encourage your employers to
Yes, so there is
buy chargers.
both residential and commercial. Brett is our commercial energy advisor, so if you fill out that form, you'll probably be working with Brett, and he is very good at commercial.
I'm pretty sure that there are some programs for businesses to install.
Yes,
chargers.
NYSERDA is very focused on like small businesses, especially. Feeling good? We're all gonna install a heat pump tomorrow?
So there will be some additional time for questions, but we did want to give the floor, if she so desired, to Assembly Member Sarah Clark.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here. And I can tell you, so I have a 1924 house in Maplewood, and we did energy efficiency a couple years ago. It's a Tudor, so like we can't button up our house without destroying some of the actual the concrete, the stuff on the outside, whatever. So windows was a big thing. And they actually said, we had double pane, the old style windows, and they actually said in some ways they're just as efficient as long as you're properly caulked, properly insulated around them. We're on radiators, and we did go to a high efficiency boiler though, and it made all the difference. First of all, and the only exhaust now is water, and it has improved our like energy bills and things in so many other ways. And then I got to be part of a family project building out in the Finger Lakes and building new with geothermal. And we did vertical because we could go really, really deep. And I will say the heating and cooling, we haven't had a bill for a full house over $40 in a year. So it just goes to show you, and in the summer, it's even better. Like we've seen it go up a little bit now, but geothermal is so efficient for cooling because you're using air that's already 50 degrees and you can get it really cold at that. So, and it was expensive to do initially, but between the rebates from the energy companies, the federal and state, we just passed the state one last year. So that has been super helpful. And we know the cost savings. And we built new, so we would have had to put a boiler in anyway. So it was really the difference between the HVAC system that we would have had to put in versus this one, which was not a ton. And we think our payoff is within a couple of years. So, and it just feels so clean and I love it. So we also in the house did full electric everything, induction stove and cooktop. And it was funny because when they were coming to put the fire alarms in, they said, we need to put carbon monoxide. And we were like, no, you don't. This is an all electric building. And so you don't even think of those things, but you no longer have to. Once you go all electric, you don't have to be worried about carbon monoxide poisoning anymore. So just little added things. As Assemblywoman Sarah Clark, I have this wonderful town of Arundecoit in my district, and I see our supervisor-elect is here joining us, Andre Evans, who's a good friend. So excited to have him here, and we'll be a partner in January. Also the town of Brighton, parts of the city of Rochester. And as you can see here, as a state, we put in, before I got there, the CLCPA, which was really the long-term climate goals that we have in the state of New York to basically be carbon neutral by, I think we're carbon neutral on electric. The goal was 2040, and I think on all fossil fuels by 2050. That can mean different things, in terms of offsets and other ways that you get to what is so-called carbon neutral, but we are really trying to get there. The biggest concern we have now is how, right? This is the question we have constantly is making sure that we're figuring out the right incentives to help individuals, business owners, and those change the way they heat, use transportation, all the different things that add to it, businesses as well. Some of the stuff we're doing on Geo now, and we're testing it across the state in various places, is like not just going to property lines, but doing large like block areas where it includes both businesses and residential, which actually, when it comes to geothermal, is amazing because when you can balance the load of usage between who's using it during the day and who's using it at night, you actually create really efficient systems. So those, I think, have a lot of promise as we start to look at not every homeowner being able to do this, but figuring out ways where we can do this where we're really going, huge multi-blocks by multi-blocks at a time. I think the first one we're doing in Rochester is in the South Wedge area. There's one in Ithaca. There's a couple, sort of scattered across the state, which will really help us a lot. We're still, waiting for DEC to come out with some guidelines around how we get to maybe some carbon offset and various, you've heard it called many different things, but some version of cap and trade or figuring out ways to make sure that those who are still pushing fossil fuels into our state are offsetting that in other ways or paying to help us get to a more carbon neutral state. So we're supposed to see guidelines by the end of this year, maybe, from, from the state to understand how that program might work. But I think that that's one of the next steps to scale up transportation. So I guess the only thing I would say too, and we know that the number one thing is people need expertise. They need oftentimes someone to really walk them through the process. These are complicated programs, and when they all work together, they work great, but you don't always know what you don't know. And so it's really important that we have people on the ground that you can call, you can schedule appointments through, and really have that hand holding if you need it. I know that when the geothermal tax credit was taken at the state level last year on my family's taxes, there was not even a place to check it yet. You know, like these programs take a little while to filter up and make sure they're working through the system. And so it actually like popped the tax return, and it took a couple of weeks, and we had to make a phone call, and it was like a really big thing. But we got there, and I will tell you, they were all very kind and nice. But understanding how these work on the ground, we know one of the big things around electric is we still really need an infrastructure built out across the state to make sure electric works for everybody. And that is something we have prioritized and continue to do as much as possible. You know, you'll see it at all the new rest stops, and you know, you'll start to see it more and more, but we know it's hard to do one without the, you know, like it's always chicken and egg, which comes first, but the reality is they have to happen both at the same time. We have to get people to be less reliant on gasoline. It is a big piece of the carbon footprint in our state. So, and I think the technologies you've heard already on heat pumps, it's going to continue to evolve and change. And the other thing I want to say too, we worked with ACES on a workshop just to talk about the tax credits on geothermal and heat pumps. And the guy who presented was amazing, and he installs these and he does all this. And he moved here from North Carolina, and he said he moved here because New York is leading in this space. And they weren't in North Carolina, and this is what he really wants to do, and really sees it as the solution to, you know, climate change and some of the other things that we're struggling or figuring out how to make things better. And he was like, I moved to New York, and you don't hear that story a lot. We hear a lot of people moving the other way. So I just wanted to always make sure that we're telling that people will really flock here, both for the research as we try to make technology better and better, but also for the work. People really believe in it, and it is an opportunity for New York to capture that market and be a leader and get those smart people here who can help us do this. So, you know, this year in the state, I think we're going to continue to, as we head into legislation, into the budget, continue to look at what programs are working. I love hearing from people to understand both the complexity. We had some things with electric cars, you know, in terms of what rebates were coming out, what, you know, certain cars weren't getting it, and people didn't understand the difference when they were buying, and it really made things more complicated than it should have. I actually was at an event at the Laser Lab with the head of NYSERDA, and she and I have a lunch scheduled in the next few weeks, because I was like, I need like a full breakdown of all the different programs and the way that we're delivering them out to people. And she said, particularly with the federal dollars that have come in through the Inflation Reduction Act, it's been a challenge to get them out in a way that is meaningful to people, make sure they can take advantage of them and use them. And so my hope is that as I get to know her better, she graduated from U of R, so she does care about Rochester a lot, is that we can really make sure we're making these programs work well for people, and giving them the resources that they really need to often get what is expensive technology. So that's my little summary of where we're at, and just honestly use me as a resource. And even when things go really well, I don't often hear from people who are like, we did it and it worked great. That's my favorite phone call, so please call with that as well. But we are trying to get a better understanding of how these are sort of rolling out, and what people think of them, and what we could do better at the state level. Yes.
On the subject of the federal tax rebates, or federal rebates that are coming down through NYSERDA, does she currently have an outlook on when those are gonna roll out?
So we had like an initial conversation and I was like, I want to reach out and have a longer one. She said that she put together a full team and that all they do is concentrate on that right now. I think they've been sort of rolling out as they've been able to roll them out instead of being a little more deliberate about it. So I hope to learn more, but I do know she said, I think she had a team of 4 or 5 people now. Justin and I started just working with the IRA to make sure that we're doing it in a way that helps people in New York really take advantage of it. But I'll know more, so hopefully more updates.
I'm not sure which of the 3 of you can answer this, but you talked about the disadvantaged people. Is that strictly economic, or is that people with disabilities?
It's geographic. So NYSERDA has decided certain areas, and there's a map on their website.
It would be income-based.
Yeah,
But
I'm sorry, what?
it would be income.
Yeah, it's income. It's like in this area, a certain percentage of people are, yeah.
But I think anyone with disabilities that make some of these more challenging in some ways. I think we need to know that. And one of the things we heard even about tax credits during the geothermal workshop is that a lot of retirees who are living just on pension and Social Security don't have a huge tax burden. Property tax different than income tax, and so they don't really work. So that's one of the things that we've been trying to figure out is how a lot of our retirees are people that might be most interested in doing this, but if we're not really incentivizing them in a way that helps, they may have the time to do the research and be excited and start doing all the work and clearing their backyards so they can drill holes. But if we're doing it the way we're doing it isn't giving them the benefit, then we need to figure that piece out too. But that came up during our geothermal workshop, and I brought it to our taxation and finance folks and our Ways and Means team to sort of say, is there a way we can do this better for those who don't really have a big income tax burden? So that's what I mean by when I hear from you guys, I can try to make it better. Is that it?
Any other questions?
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We had about 40 people in our geothermal workshop. Having you here means a lot. I'm hoping we can start to grow the people that are interested in looking into this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andre, did you want to say?
Yeah, let's, Andre would like to just.
Oh, great.
Give a little bit.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Andre Evans. I'm in town supervisor WEC. I want to thank you for all your help and your votes, and if you didn't vote for me, thank you again for at least voting and participating in the system. So my job is to work with Sarah and Samra, Adam, all the way up to Chuck Schumer to make us as carbon neutral as possible and move us in a direction to make our community healthy and keep our community healthy and safe. So if you have a pin on you, I can give you my number if you want to sit and discuss our future plans. I'll be rolling out after January. My telephone number is, my cell number is 330-585, of course, 330-1048. So just give me a call anytime, and then that goes with anytime, not only for this, but for anything. 585-330-104. And thank you very much, and thanks for your trust.
Stop the recording here.
Thank you, everybody.